Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming Podcast. Today is the 14th May of 2018. My name is Kralizec and I will be one of your hosts for the evening. The second host is Tygergamer, who just fell down. He's dead. Hey Tiger, how are you doing?
Great, about you?
I'm actually doing fairly well today. Had a lot of bureaucracy to deal with this week, but hopefully everything will be great. I've essentially asked our social services to lower the amount of money I have to pay to them each month. And it seems they should comply, and I should go from like $500 down to about $100 per month.
Okay.
Which would nicely limit my expenses. But we're not here to talk about bureaucracy. We're here to talk about video games.
Yes.
So Tyler, tell us, what have you been playing this week?
I played a little bit more of City of Brass this week.
Awesome. I've been playing that too. So what are your, not initial impressions, like second impressions?
It just feels like any other roguelike. The only standout thing in this game is you have a freaking whip.
You know what? To a degree, I agree with you. One thing stands out to me. I think there is too much freaking traps here.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
I've actually, there's the boon and something system in it. I've actually lowered the amount of traps, and I still feel like there's too many. Like, they're fucking everywhere. I'm not dying to enemies. I'm dying to the traps.
Yep.
But, how far have you gotten? What was your best floor?
I think I made it to the third floor.
And did you manage to defeat the boss there, or the mini-boss?
No.
That's a shame. And did you get to, I think it's him, did you get to him? Or did you just die before you got to him?
Died before I got to him.
That sucks. Because I actually, when I first got to him, I had a pretty big problem in defeating him. Because he is the first magic-using enemy you encounter. Apart from the genies that throw fireballs at you. But when I first got to him, at that point I still haven't figured out that you can throw magic projectiles back at enemies with your whip.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to defeat him. Because you need to throw his energy balls that he throws at you at him to lower his barrier and do damage to him. And because I haven't figured that out, and because there were so little magic users before that, and the genies, I essentially just ran past them as fast as I could, because I didn't want to waste my wishes.
Yep. Or your time.
I've actually never had a problem with a timer, to be honest. But I was just like standing there. I was avoiding his like orbs of energy or whatever they are. I was like, how the fuck should I beat him? I got close to him. I tried to strike him. I just got pushed back, and I was like, how the fuck do you beat this guy? What's the point? I tried whipping him. The whip did nothing to him. I think there should be at least one magic user introduced before him. Just so you can get that idea through the gameplay, so you don't have to go online like me and like how to defeat this boss in reality.
Yeah. You would think that they would, like, a game mechanic like that, they would have in the tutorial part of the game.
Yeah, it's not mentioned anywhere. It's like, yeah, you can stun enemies I'm sure that's cool and awesome, but why doesn't it mention that you can knock back projectiles?
Yeah, really.
And apart from that, I actually enjoyed City of Brass quite a lot. Um, I wish there was a map system, so when you get to the end of the level, well, you still got time, you could like go explore a little bit more, try to gather a little bit more gold so you could buy more stuff. But because there is no real map, you know, you could risk running out of time if you don't remember where to turn and which doors to use. But otherwise, yeah, it's a decent game. The combat system, I think the game is actually too easy in its combat.
Oh yeah.
At least in the first 6 levels. Maybe when you get above that, it gets more complex. At the 6th level, there was the first enemy I had trouble with. And only if I wasn't using a companion. You know, one of the summoned ghosts. When I had a summoned ghost, I just let him enter the room first, and he would focus on him, and I could just quickly kill him, no problem. But otherwise, he actually, the enemy has a whip attack himself.
Oh wow.
So that was pretty cool, and I like the fact that the levels get a bit varied as you progress. It's not, you know, always just the city. You get like into the gardens. You get to view outside of the city when you get to the terrace. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a decent, I would call it a AA game. Yeah, but I still think Ziggurat is better. Okay, what else have you played this week?
I also played some Conan Exiles.
Okay, I played a bit of that when it came to early access, but I'm pretty sure the game has changed a lot since then. So, give me your thoughts.
Well, I've actually been really enjoying it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play it back when it was in early access, so I'm playing this game completely new, so I didn't experience anything.
Do you still start like a naked person outside of everywhere?
Well, since I was playing this on consoles, you should have like a cloth over your genitals, so.
Oh, on PC you actually have an option just to go fully naked and see your ding-dong swinging around. And the physics on that are pretty amazing. I can tell you, that's exactly how a ding-dong should swing.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, consoles, they, you know, the like Sony and Microsoft,
you know what
they don't want
you know what I'm gonna buy you? One of those rubber pads which you get for your phone into the car.
Actually, that's what I got right here.
You should be using that for your camera.
Actually, that's what I'm using.
Oh, it's not holding on that? That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't matter. Continue with your thought.
Yeah, but yeah, I've actually been really enjoying Conan Exile.
Which part do you like the most? Do you like the combat or the survival parts, I guess?
I like the survival parts.
And why is that?
Well, because I'm actually a guy that's not actually freaking tired of the survival genre, so.
Yeah, I think that helps. Have you played any other survival games in the past?
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
So how come you're not tired of it?
I don't know. I guess I'm just not.
That's cool. You know, I actually had the most fun when I actually had the early access version, and I also downloaded the cracked early access version, where I was alone in the world. And I used the console just to essentially make it a Minecraft for myself, with buildings like a giant castle. And I was at no risk of anybody coming and knocking it down.
Yeah.
How big is the community on PlayStation 4?
Actually, I've actually been only playing the single player portion of it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you planning to play the multiplayer one?
Possibly.
I would really want to hear about like how the game works in a social setting, because as far as I understand it, it's almost meant to be like you create tribes, you know, like clans, rather than trying
Yeah.
to just dominate everyone else. Okay, there's one more game I've been playing this week. It's called Trailblazers, and it's actually an arcade sci-fi racer. And it's not bad. It's not my cup of tea, to be honest. When it comes to racers, I usually prefer real cars. But this one has an interesting mechanic. I think the devs have been playing too much of Splatoon. Because the mechanic in the game is you have paint inside your car and you can paint the tracks and if you drive over a piece of track that's painted with your team's color, you get extra speed. It's essentially like driving over a boost. And you know, you can try to color over other teams' colors. They obviously try to do the same. It's an interesting mechanic. It's an interesting approach, but I don't think it will gather much popularity. I don't think people are hungry for arcade racers at the moment. And I don't think the racer genre is right now flourishing, to be honest, in general.
Yeah.
I think it needs like a game that would really catch people's attention and make it competitive. Because what it's lacking right now is an esports scene. Like a really big one. I know there's like Life for Speed, which has been existing since forever. And people just love that. But there really needs to be a racing game that comes out and builds that esports mentality at large.
Yeah.
Because, you know, once that happens, everybody will rush into the genre the same way everybody's rushing with the Battle Royale genre right now.
Yes.
Okay. So did you get to play anything else other than City of Brass and Conan Exiles?
Well, I get to try just a little bit of a Nintendo Labo this past week, so I got to build 2 things. That's about it so far.
Which things did you get to build?
Well, I started from easiest. So first I tried out the Joy-Con holder, and then I tried out the RC car.
Okay, and do they work fine? Are they fun?
They're honestly just one-off stuff. So, but I have to go and do the more complex stuff next. So, couldn't see how those fare. So.
Yeah, and hopefully you will have that readily available next week, because I do want to know, you know, like, but I will have something I want you to do. I want you not to play them as yourself, but as yourself when you were 10.
Sure have.
I think that's the target demographic. I don't think it's like 25-year-olds. It's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I've been doing.
I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the game segment of this week's episode. And let's go into the news. And we're going to begin with EA and their favorite topic, loot boxes. As one of the CEOs of EA, named Andrew Wilson, decided to explain to everybody why loot boxes aren't gambling. And I will be honest with you, when I read this, I think I finally understand why they don't view loot boxes as gambling. It's because they're using a different definition of gambling than we are. So I'll give you my own definition. I'll let you either agree with me, disagree with me, improve on it. My definition of gambling is an activity that activates the pleasure center of the brain, essentially extracts a little bit of dopamine into your brain when you're playing a game of chance, making you potentially addicted. Would you be okay with that definition, or would you change it somehow?
Actually, that's actually a pretty good definition of gambling.
Mm-hmm. And the definition he is using, and obviously many other gaming companies, is it's a chance-based activity that gives you the chance to win money, or something that can be exchanged for money. And obviously, if each of the groups, one that's defending loot boxes as not gambling and one that is saying, yes, loot boxes are gambling, if each of the groups is using a completely different definition of gambling, we will never agree.
Yeah.
Because in his definition, yes, loot boxes, or mostly, aren't gambling. At least the ones where you cannot trade in the items for real-world currencies.
Yeah.
But in our definition, it is gambling.
Yeah.
So, I think the first thing that needs to be cleared up here in this discussion is, what exactly are we going to consider gambling in the future? Will it be a game of chance where you win money, or will it be a game of chance that has the potential to get you addicted? So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think their definition has some merit to it?
Yeah, because up until recently, the definition of gambling was EA's definition of gambling, whereas now with loot boxes, people can actually get addicted to this crap. Mm-hmm. That's when the other definition came into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
So
I would like to hear, ideally now, that this would be a perfect place where we could get an expert psychologist who could, give us his opinion. But sadly, we don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just think our definition is better for a simple fact. Our definition is concerned about people's mental health.
Yeah.
And their definition isn't. And I don't think that the discussion was about ever whether loot boxes are a game of chance that can give you money. I don't think the discussion was ever about that. I think the discussion was on a few different subjects. One of them was the fact that it's bad for the industry. But my particular take on this is it can potentially hurt people's mental health. And I don't think that's a good thing. That would be very hard to argue that hurting somebody is a good thing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm sure there will be a lot of battles, especially in the court of law, over this, as EA itself makes over $500 million just from the FIFA Ultimate Team packs. And they will obviously not want to get rid of that source of income.
Yeah, most definitely.
But I think we just need a few countries to be brave enough to say, no, your definition, while technically correct, isn't the more important definition, and we will go with the definition that is concerned about people's mental health. And I think many studies will have to be made into this. Hopefully they will be. Hopefully they will be done well. Yeah. And since we are on the topic of loot boxes and countries being brave, it seems Belgium is the first country to actually be brave. So a few weeks we talked about the fact that the Belgian Gaming Commission essentially deemed loot boxes as gambling, no matter whether you can make money off them or not. But now they're actively recommending that criminal prosecution be taken out against Activision Blizzard, EA, and Valve. So, what do you think of that?
I think, well, since they're actually breaking Belgium's laws now, I'd say, hey, Belgium actually has a right to sue them.
So, the criminal prosecution won't actually take place until the Belgian Minister of Justice, who is named Koen Jeans, will meet with, some of the higher-ups from the industry to discuss the matter. I really hope they don't convince him that their definition of gambling is correct. But there is a chance they will, because, they could say, we will provide Belgium with, 100 million euros in charities.
Sure.
Essentially bribing him, not directly, giving $1 million to him, but bribing Belgium as a country. I think that's a real chance that could potentially happen. Or they could just say, we're going to take one of our smaller studios and put it into Belgium and hire 500 people. And if that's done by 5 studios, that's 2,500 employees made in a really small country. That's not a small amount. And I'm just scared that they could potentially get bribed. But
yeah.
I'm hoping they won't. I really hope they won't. Okay, let's go away from loot boxes, but stay on the side of law for a bit. As a World of Warcraft player is going to go into federal prison for a year for DDoSing World of Warcraft servers. So this is Calin Matthias, who originally is from Romania and has been extradited to the United States on the November 20th. And he has been sentenced to what I said a little bit earlier. The DDoS attacks actually happened back in 2010. And I don't think his goal was to hurt Blizzard, because it seems he usually had an argument with some other player, got angry at them, and then DDoSed his server. Because, so the other guy couldn't play. But obviously this also meant other people who wanted to play couldn't play either. So he's been ordered to pay about $30,000 in fines to Blizzard to compensate for that, and go for a year to prison. So, what do you think of the sentence? Do you think it's too harsh?
Well, I think, honestly, this sentence should have came a lot sooner, considering that it happened like in 2010.
Well, I think the problem here was getting him from Romania.
Yeah.
Because that's not such an easy thing to just extradite someone. The country has to agree with giving them to America. But what about the sentence itself? Because to me, it seems pretty harsh, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
I think it should have been one or the other. Either the fine or the prison sentence.
Yeah.
Because a year in federal prison yeah, it's obviously not a nice thing. But $30,000 in Romania is a fuck ton of money. I can tell you that right now. $30,000 is a fuck ton of money here in Czech Republic. It's like, that's what you buy a small apartment for. And you buy it. It's yours. Not obviously a luxurious one or in a nice place, but you can still buy an apartment for that kind of money. And I'm pretty sure you could probably buy a decent apartment for that money in Romania. So, I know, it just seems like too much. If you put it together. I know. I think this was more Blizzard trying to make a statement rather than anything else. But I think they went a little bit too overboard with it. Just a tiny bit. Okay, our next topic. This one is quite political. And here I think you will have a big opinion on it. So you know the NRA, right?
Yes.
Is it the National Rifle Association or something like that?
Yes, that's it. That is it.
So they had a conference held over the weekend last week. And they had a speaker there named David Grossman, who actually speaks pretty commonly at NRA conferences. And he's really big into being pro-gun. He's essentially arguing that people should own many guns and that they're always good. And he's also very much saying that it is video games that are the cause of mass shootings in America. What he said specifically is, around the planet, children are committing crimes like no one's ever seen before in human history. It's not about the guns. The guns have always been there. It's the sick movies and the sick TV shows and especially the sick video games around the planet that are creating sick kids. So, you want to give it a shot before I give it a shot?
Yeah, first off, him saying that guns have always been here, well, the same argument can also be kind of said about games, movies, and TV. I mean, shoot. TV shows have been around since like the 1950s over here in the U.S. Movies have been around since, gosh, the early 1900s. Yeah. And games have also been around for like 40, 50 years. So, and of course, yeah, games did become a little more violent like 20, 30 years ago. But that does not mean that people become violent because of these violent games. It's because of mental health. They do not, like, like, people don't pay attention to if someone's going through, if they have, like, mental health issues, so. I think that's a bigger issue than...
And I would also like to say one thing. Guns haven't been here forever.
Yeah, that too.
And people have been violent, ridiculously violent before that.
Yes.
And I do agree that guns are not the cause of violence. I can agree with him on that point. But I don't think it's the movies, I don't think it's TV, and I certainly don't think it's video games either. I have my own opinion about what is the cause of gun violence, specifically in the United States. It's the fact that there are so many guns circulating inside the population.
That's true.
Here it's just not the case. And Czech Republic actually has a lot of guns, but they are usually just specifically hunting rifles. And usually there's let's say, I know there's about one gun per citizen in America. roughly, very roughly. Here it's about one gun for 50 citizens. And that's a very different number. And you know what the people with mental health issues do here?
What's that?
They buy a knife and they go on a killing spree with a knife. Or they just take like a rock and beat somebody to death with a rock. Obviously the scope of the violence is different because of the guns in the United States.
Yeah.
Let's be blunt about it. Let's be blunt about the fact that you can kill more people with a gun than with a knife.
Yeah, most definitely.
But people will still be violent. Violence is intrinsic to humans.
Yes.
Stop trying to pretend like we're all virtuous. Like we don't have flaws. Like we're all good. There are so many bad people and so many sick, bad people capable of performing violence. Let's be honest about that fact and acknowledge the fact. Then we can start to search for a real answer towards the problem.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it just seems like a non-argument at this point. There have been so many psychological studies that prove video games are not the cause of violence. If anything, they actually lower your aggressive tendencies.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm just pissed at him at so much. I wish I could shoot him.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I can't wait for the day when video games will stop being the scapegoat of so many of this crap.
Yeah, and it used to be movies, and I'm pretty sure, like, in the 15th, 16th century, it was books.
Yeah.
And before that, I know, have you ever seen that comic? It's like with a caveman on the end.
Yeah, you tell me about that.
Yeah, there will always be a scapegoat because people don't want to acknowledge what the real problem is. They just want to push their agenda.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into the discussion of whether guns should be legal or how readily accessible they should be to buy. Because that's such a complex question. I don't think a single person can answer it. You can obviously have your own opinion. Nobody's stopping you from having an opinion.
Yep, and I have mine, so...
Yeah, I also have mine, but I don't think it's really needed here.
Yeah, really.
So... that's it for this topic. Let's move on to something more optimistic. So many of you guys maybe heard of the RPG Maker, which is a tool that allows you to make RPGs. I think the name is pretty self-explanatory. And this summer, there is essentially going to be a sequel to it. Well, not exactly a sequel. It will be a different tool. This time it will be the Pixel Game Maker. So currently it's being tested in Japan, but the makers of it, Kodakaba, which is the Japanese studio behind RPG Maker, says it's going to be coming to Steam Early Access sometime this summer. If you don't know what these tools are, they're essentially very easy to use game building tools with easy to make logic, physics engine, and you don't need to know any programming to actually be capable of using them. So, what's your opinion of this?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. This is just fucking awesome. I just can't wait to see what people create with this.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it will have a little bit more complexity compared to RPG Maker. There are so many bad RPGs on Steam because of RPG Maker, but there are a few good ones of it because of it as well. And there will obviously be so many bad games because of Pixel Game Maker as well. But hopefully there will be a few gems in the rough there as well.
Yeah.
I might actually try to create something with it. It will probably be just a simple platformer, but I really want to try to see whether I can create something that is fun or whether I'm just good at critiquing others. Otherwise, the tools that will be available are actually obviously tailored to pixel art, so you will be able to create pixel art inside of the game. You will obviously also be capable of importing your own sprites. And there will be some support for JavaScript extensions, so you could probably, if you do know a little bit of programming, but you don't want to like fully code a game, you could just make like a little bit of an extension. And obviously people will be making these at large, so if you're searching for something, just like wait a year, and in a year you will likely find the tools necessary to create your idea of a game. Sadly, we don't know the exact date for when it's coming, but I just can't wait for this. Really. Looks freaking awesome. Okay, next piece of news might actually be of big interest for you, as you do own a few consoles, and some of them are probably getting a bit old. So Sony...
no.
Sorry, what?
No.
I meant like literally old, like they're like 4 or 5 years old. How old is your PlayStation for?
The one I have now.
Oh, well, you
is
have
only
a new
a few
one.
weeks old. Yeah.
Why do you have a new one?
Well, because my brother, we're getting on Play soon, so, and he needed a PS4 so my sister can have the other one, and to keep them from fighting, I gave him my old one. I got a PS4 Pro. So.
Okay, but let's say so your brother will have the old PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
And there is a chance that it might break.
Maybe so.
And Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are now being forced to remove the little void warranty stickers off of it. So you will be now able to take your consoles to any electronics repairman and get your stuff fixed without the need to wait like 2 months because they need to ship it to I don't know where and ship it back.
Or if you have the knowledge, you can repair it yourself.
Yeah, that obviously too, though I wouldn't recommend that to the vast majority of people, to be honest. Interestingly enough, these stickers have been actually illegal since 1975. And I'm just fascinated by the fact that nobody came to Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and all the other companies that are using them sooner. Why not? Do you think like there's some reason they didn't, or they just didn't care?
I think it has to be that they did not care up until recently, because you know, if you like, even in like video games in gaming infancy, gaming hasn't really been in the public eye until like the late 90s. So,
but that's still almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's not a short time span. But there's a different place where I would like to take this conversation. So, last week we talked a little bit about the fact that gaming stores are essentially dying out. They're a dying out breed.
Yep.
I think this could be the solution. Don't only sell games, but also have some console repairs available.
There you go.
So, otherwise, I really think that the game, GameStop and here Czech Republic, the shop is called JRC. I think they're just dying out. I never see customers in them, like, ever.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, the GameStop I used to frequent all the time. Up until 3 years ago, they actually went out of business.
I don't think that's really surprising, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next piece of news. This is actually the second to last piece of news. Oh no, I'm bullshitting. There's 3 more pieces of news. I misread my tabs in my browser. So, Destiny 2, the game that has been highly controversial because people do enjoy the game, but they don't think there's enough of it, essentially, as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
But it recently got a new DLC called Warmind. And again, people have been complaining about the fact that there's not enough content. But one thing that there was inside of there was a puzzle that was essentially a symbol found on one of the buildings inside the game that that appeared to describe a sequence of steps that were leading to a puzzle. And users on the subreddit known as r/ratesecrets decided to solve it because it's the internet and nothing ever gets unsolved. And the riddle pointed them to a real-life location, the Sleeping Beauty Mountain in upstate New York. And one of the users, who goes by a nickname I Love Science, was the quickest to get there, and he managed to find some sweet real-world loot. So I actually have a few pictures, so let's take a look at those. So the first picture is essentially how the stash looked. It's just a little black container under a bunch of trees or sticks. Second picture is actually the message from the devs. Essentially a thank you note saying, we hope you enjoyed finding this. It's a cool puzzle, blah, blah, blah. You know, the typical stuff.
Yeah.
Next picture is, so inside of the stash there were actually gold coins, like I would say 30, maybe 50 gold coins. As I said yesterday when I reported about this in the news, I really hope he took only one of the coins, because those should be there for the other people who decide to come to the location so they get something as well. But last of all, the thing he rightfully deserves is this. This, I don't know if it's a staff or a spear. It's called the Valkyrie, and it looks freaking amazing. It's based off one of the it's based off one of the weapons inside of Destiny 2. And yeah, I think he can be very happy that he got it. In the letter from the devs, this is actually one of only 3 of these things made in the whole world. One of them is owned by the studio who made the DLC. One of them is owned by Bungie. And the third one is owned by the guy who got there first. And I'm really, really jealous of him. And I'm not a Destiny fan, to be honest. It's a console game.
Yeah.
I don't get to play it. I know it's on PC, I think, Destiny 2 is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Still, it's an MMO, and I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool. I love when companies do these sort of marketing plots, I guess, for the community. I think this was the best way they marketed Destiny 2 altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to have the spear?
No, not really.
Why? Why?
Also, I really much wouldn't care for it. So
yeah, just put it on your wall. Or stab somebody.
No.
Now, obviously, you shouldn't stab somebody with anything. It's a bad idea.
But, or unless it's in self-defense.
Oh, even then, I would suggest just bashing their heads in. Oh, you know, just make them unconscious.
That's too slow. That's too slow.
I also think it's easier to bash somebody's skull than to stab them. But
it depends on what you have about.
Yeah, obviously. But man, I would love to have this. I've been actually considering like making a 3D model of a sword and having it made out of wood and then painting it essentially like myself. But I still haven't decided if I wanted to do that. I'm really bad with my hands. I'm decent with my words. I can write a little bit. But I'm shit with my hands. Like, I wish I was good with them, but I'm so shit. And I just marvel at what people can create when they're good with their hands. Okay, let's do a little bit of a public announcement. More of a warning. So, if you by chance have received an email claiming that you are eligible to beta test Fortnite for Android, it's a scam.
Yeah.
Don't click the button. If you click the button, don't write any of your private information in there. It's a phishing scam. There aren't any beta invites going out at the moment. Interestingly enough, for once, the scammers are actually somewhat smart, as they were primarily sending it to big Fortnite YouTubers. You know, the people who probably would be expecting such an email from Epic.
Yeah.
But Epic themselves have came out. Nick Chester from Epic said, "The email going around is obvious phishing scam. Please reach out for us for clarification before spreading misinformation. Thank you." Yeah, don't click anything. I'm pretty sure Epic will come out themselves and say, we will be sending out emails. If you get these emails, in general, be always sure to very carefully check the address you're being taken to. If there's anything fishy about it, don't put any information in there. Don't click the links. Be very, very careful with your personal information.
Yes.
It can be so easily abused and sold. It will be sold so many times. Okay, and now to our actual last piece of news. Let's go into the world of real life sports for a moment. As a pitcher who plays for the Boston Red Sox, he plays in MLB, which is the Major League Baseball, named David Price, is essentially being forced not to play Fortnite anymore. The reason for this is recently Price has developed a pretty nasty thing called the carpal tunnel syndrome, which essentially is your blood is starting to clot here in your wrist, and it causes swelling of your fingers, it causes major pain. It's really not a good thing to have.
Yeah.
And one of the common causes of carpal tunnel syndrome is actually using the mouse or a gamepad.
Yeah.
But also, it's pretty fucking common amongst pitchers.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing a ball with your wrist at 100 fucking miles per hour. And it essentially started with a writer for the Boston Globe, Don Shaughnessy, decided that no, it's not the fact that he's pitching balls at 100 miles per hour. It's the fact that he's playing video games. And we're back at the topic of using video games as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And what pisses me here off is the fact that this guy, Dan Charnessy, decided to take on a role of a doctor even though he has zero medical knowledge. He's a guy that writes about sports, and I'm pretty sure he's fairly knowledgeable about sports, but I'm also fairly sure he knows shit when it comes to medicine. It just... Why? What do you think of this?
I think the guy that wrote the article, I think he needs to do a little more research instead of just jumping to conclusions like that.
I will say this. I'm pretty sure him gaming didn't help his carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yeah, true.
But it wasn't surely the primary cause. Let's be blunt about that. But this guy essentially managed to single-handedly ban this guy from one of his hobbies. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure he wasn't playing anymore himself because he knows that's bad for his wrist. And he makes a living with his wrist.
Yeah.
Unless he's a total dumbass, total idiot. I don't know. Just... journalism at its best.
Yeah.
And that's essentially it for the news, unless you have something you would like to
no.
add. Good.
I do not.
Then it's time for the last segment of the show for recommendations. I got 2 games to recommend. How many do you have?
2 as well.
Okay, then I'll start this week. The first game I would like to recommend is called Coloro, or Coloro, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's a little puzzle platformer about a young girl with pink hair named Cora who embarks on a quest to find her missing sister. And I should disclose the fact that I actually already have access to this game. I have been given this game for free by the developers. I have sunk about 30 minutes into it. It's an obvious part of a mobile game. Let me just quickly check if it's available on Android, actually. And what is the price it's available on Android. Where's the Google Play Store? Here. Okay. Oh, fuck. So I don't see it available on Android. Maybe it is available on iOS. I'm not sure. But it's a puzzle platformer. It's decent. If you want something smaller for your next week, the controls are incredibly simple. You're using just a single button to control the whole game. I really like that. And it has a nice soundtrack. The story is decent. Gameplay is okay, I guess. It's not, like, awful. But if you're looking just for something to play on your Windows tablet, I think this is a good choice. What about you? What do you have to recommend?
First off, I got a game called Dragon's Crown Pro, which is coming to the PS4 tomorrow. It's a remastered version of Dragon's Crown, which came out for the PS3 and Vita a few years back. It's pretty much a side-scrolling action RPG beat 'em up. So.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
You planning to play that next week?
Yes.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. My second game for this week, again, I should disclose, I already have this game available to me. It's been also given to me for free by the devs. It's called Spartan Fist, and this is a brawler played from the first-person perspective with roguelike features, and it's made in voxel graphics, which if you don't know what that means, that's essentially, it looks like Minecraft. And I actually played about, again, 20 minutes of this. It's decent so far. I want to play a bit more of it to give more comprehensive. It looks good. It reminds me of, what was that one called? Robot something? I don't remember that name, something. It was a brawler where you played as a robot and you just got killed over and over again. It reminds me by the fact that that one also used voxel graphics. It was also a brawler. It also had roguelike features. And I really enjoyed that one. Like, I've actually been playing that time to time, even when I wasn't, you know, supposed to. I wasn't playing that for work. I was playing that for fun. So I'm hoping this one also captivates the fun. I can't say much more as there's still an embargo on it. It's coming out tomorrow, so yeah.
Okay.
Be sure to check it out if you like brawlers and roguelites. And what is your second game?
My second one is called Omen Sight. It's coming to the PS4 and PC tomorrow as well. It's pretty much a action murder mystery.
That's an interesting combination of genres.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I just found out about it like last night. I was like, I cannot believe this flew under my radar, and I was like, I'm just gonna try. Because the game looks nice, like the art style looks beautiful, and it has an interesting concept. So I can't see how it is.
Yeah, I think I'll leave this one to you. It does look nice. It's not my genre, you know, action games that much these days. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the story.
Yeah.
And here, apparently, it's a spiritual successor to Stories, The Path of Destinies.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of that, maybe this one will be fun for you as well.
Yep.
And you got anything else you would like to say in today's episode of SteemTrail Gaming Podcast?
Nope. How about you?
Not really. So I guess it's time for us to slowly bring this episode of our podcast to the end. So we both hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you're watching on Steam, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Either way, you should leave a comment and you should tune in tomorrow because the Gaming News series returns.
Yes.
See you guys later. More gaming content.
Yeah, have a good one.